Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Global Podcast Sensation. This is Canton Avenue. I'm your host, Lane Hollings. We're joined by my co-host,
Cord Koenig.
Today we have a very special guest coming all the way from Gordon Hall. I met him in the dorms last year. His name is Ethan Myers. We're happy to have him on. I think he's excited.
I am excited, and I appreciate y'all having me here.
Of course, brother.
Can I just comment before we get going that we are all matching? We are basically wearing the exact same thing, all three of us. This was not planned.
Wasn't
Just
planned.
we all have good taste.
If you like it, just drop it in the comments. We'll keep doing it.
There you
go.
Coordinated.
And on that, I think back to your first podcast when you talked about, the college look. Every man, t-shirt, whitewashed jeans. I mean, we're pretty much
Well, Beatty's kind
we're
of going
there.
with the darker jeans. I mean, and I wouldn't say mine are lighter wash, but they're not super light. So maybe we're trying to kind of break the trend.
Yeah, probably.
add a
I'm
little
wearing
something
dark
extra.
wash today. How about that? Dark wash. Check these out. These are
And the new Air Forces.
Hey, yeah, and I got my mom got me these for Valentine's Day because I don't have a Valentine. So Mama got me these, and I'm already getting them nice and broke in. Thanks, Mama, if you're watching. They were white on Monday.
I'm curious, how many years of your life has your mom been your sole Valentine?
Going on 20. Yeah. 20 years old
Put it
for
there.
reference, yeah. Okay, we're going to start today off with a hot take, and then we're going to let Ethan tell us a little bit about himself, about some of the things he's done. But the hot take today, and if there's college students out there watching or former college students, even if you haven't been to college, you can kind of relate to this. Quit touring our campus. I'm kind of over it. I'm tired of walking around campus and seeing a bunch of losers walking around. And, I like heckling them and being like fresh meat and whatnot. Kind of like Shawshank Redemption when the bus shows up and we're all heckling them. But the thing is, if you're not coming here on a D1 scholarship, go home. Any thoughts, Cord? Ethan?
I honestly don't even have a problem with them being here because, I went on one of those tours. The thing that kind of gets me...
Of course you did.
Yeah, shut up. The thing that kind of gets me about it, though, is, Coach, they're being lied to, and they're just letting it happen.
That's the thing.
We're letting it happen as students. I see them walking around Rawls, the little tour guides, real happy to be there. All the parents are real excited because their kid's going to college. I'm sitting there, just failed a test, ready to shoot myself.
Yeah.
And they're acting like everything's okay.
And here's another
It's
thing.
not.
Here's another thing. You ever think about this? We're going and touring Rawls, which was built in 2017. We're going and checking out Talkington Hall, Honors Hall. We're checking out the big hitters.
Go to Gordon.
Yeah, go to Gordon. Why don't you go rummage around Gordon, see what that's like?
And it's not even that. Exactly what you're saying, though. They're showing you the new buildings on campus.
Coach, it's like selling fruit on the side of the highway. As Dwight Schrute once said, you put your best beats up front.
Yeah.
That's a money beat right there.
They're not taking you over to Weymouth or Chitwood. They're running you through Talkington. They're running you through the Honors Dorm.
The slums.
Right, exactly.
What is it, Murray Hall, the one that's like the newer one over by the Honors? That one's pretty nice too, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we went through that one.
They're smart with it. But if you're thinking about going to Texas Tech, I want you to go and find your way into Chitwood Weymouth halfway through the first semester. And there'll either be like a flood that went down or, somebody lit off fireworks.
Somebody
died. Yeah, what did we get first semester, our freshman year? We had like 35 deaths.
Not to make like a light of the situation. I'm not saying that's good, but we were there probably 2 days before somebody
don't do drugs,
overdosed or something like that.
Or you get those those emergency alerts from
The emails.
Texas Tech, and it's like sexual assault, and then
Yeah.
it tells you where it happened.
And I'm sure
And,
this happens on all the campuses,
right,
but
nine times out of 10, it's Chitwood or it's Urbanovsky or somewhere.
Oh, the park was big.
Yeah.
The thing that makes me mad about those alerts, campus alerts if something goes on is you never get like the follow-up. It's always like so-and-so reported so-and-so for sexual assault. So I'm sitting there, I'm invested.
How do y'all feel? And I don't know if this is going to make the final cut. I don't know. How do y'all feel about bringing back public executions? Keeping the public in line.
Listen, you know exactly how I feel about this. And this is probably not a podcast topic, but I will continue to talk about it just for the sake of having the video of it.
Yeah.
Listen, if you want to stop like serious crime, public like executions, the way to go. Listen, you get the crowd involved. I mean, if you have to, driving through town on like a Wednesday afternoon, oh, Billy Bob just got hung,
The last time he steals a horse.
Yeah. You're thinking about going to that gas station, maybe stealing a monster. I might think about that again.
Hey, think twice, big boy.
And think about this. I mean, you're talking about a hanging, for that hanging, you're employing people. Somebody's got to build the hangman.
Jobs for the public.
Yeah.
They build them up on a big stage. Like, I mean, that's a carpenter. That's, a woodsmith, woodworker, whatever the hell it is. I mean, like.
Lowering unemployment.
You're creating jobs.
That does not need to be in the podcast.
Economically viable, too.
That does not need to be in the podcast.
Well, I had a professor, and we were talking about, so he was explaining supply and demand to us, and he was talking about how the problem with the way we're fighting the war on drugs as a country, is that you're going after the supply chain, okay? But demand does not change when you go bust El Chapo down at the border. There's just as many tweakers, and they don't, it's not a very elastic demand. And so he said the best way to fight drug war, and he's being facetious, obviously, but he's like, just go kill all the addicts. You kill all the addicts, there's no demand, and then the market crashes.
But
for
would
drugs.
New addicts replace them?
Okay, so
No,
it's funny y'all are talking about this. So over spring break, my cousin was like, she's never done drugs, right? But she was all about like fentanyl crossing the border. And I guess like users of fentanyl, after they take it, you die.
what do you mean she was about it? Like she was just
interested in
researching
it, and she just
I
didn't.
don't think you die every time, but the chance of
her,
you dying.
Her
is relatively
whole
high.
thing was, this fentanyl comes across, the users use it. After 2-3 times, whatever, they die. And she's just like, I don't get it. Like the drug cartels are killing their consumers. And we're on a long drive, so I entertained the idea. I turned around to her. I'm like, listen, if one dies, there's going to be 3 to take its place. Like it doesn't matter. They're going to keep making the drug because they know they're going to keep selling the drug. I mean, you're going to have to. I said for the fentanyl to make a difference, like so many people are going to have to be killed off.
I just don't think like if you cut off demand for it, then what happens is that we've got a bunch of drug dealers without any sort of income, and I don't think they've got at least not the entire distribution network. I don't think they all have just a bunch of disposable saved up money, So I think you could really take it out with, but once again, you could never do this because you'd have to get either everyone clean or everyone gone.
Dead.
Yeah. So, okay, let's get into something a little bit more serious. Everybody cool with that?
Works for me.
That was fun.
All right. Yeah, that was fun. All right. And I'm sure this is going to happen. This always goes like this. Tell me I want to know more about you pursuing your pilot's license. When did you start? What did that kind of look like? Because you're a licensed pilot.
Yes.
And just tell me a little bit about that. I've known people who've gone for it who haven't completed the course and whatnot, and it's pretty impressive. So I'd love to hear about that a little bit.
So I guess we need to go back about 3 years. So in high school, I was in junior ROTC, and my sophomore year, the United States Air Force opened up a program where they would give scholarships to high school students to go pursue their pilot's license. So my junior year, I applied. Yeah, my junior year, I applied and was accepted. full ride scholarship from the Air Force. No commitment to join the Air Force. They just are paying for my private pilot's license. Great. So junior year comes to an end, and that was about the time COVID was coming on. It was 2020. I was supposed to go summer of 2020. Well, COVID kind of shut everything down, so they rolled us back to 2021. So all senior year, I had, 9 months to sit there and just anticipate this, right? So I graduate high school. 2 days after I graduated, I was on a plane headed to Iowa. I chose to go to Iowa Lakes Community College in Esterville, Iowa. And for flight school. For flight school.
Okay.
For the Air Force assigned us across the United States. There's a bunch of different college flight schools, and we got to pick our top 5. And I think Iowa was my third choice.
Okay.
But they just pretty much assigned us randomly. So me and I think 17 other students from all over the United States got to Iowa, and for the next 8 weeks, we flew pretty much every day. And actually, all 18 of us passed, and all of us earned our private pilot's license. It was a lot of fun. I mean,
so just to backtrack 1 second, how did you con the United States Air Force into paying for this for you? So was it kind of I don't know, I might go into the military?
Well, no, that was the deal. So they, so like I said, my sophomore year of high school is when the program started. So if I wouldn't have been rolled back, I would have been the second class for the Air Force to do this program. But the Air Force recognizes that there's a pilot shortage in the United States, and we need to get more young kids invested in flying.
Just commercial pilots.
Just just anything.
Pilots in general.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And they're we're gonna invest hundreds of thousands, probably millions of dollars, and we're gonna get all these kids to go fly. And so I know, just for me, my scholarship was a little under $24,000 from the Air Force.
And how much is flight school?
I didn't pay a dime. So however much and they paid. I think there were 22 universities across the United States that partake in it, and my university had 18. And then just think about the millions of dollars the Air Force put into this.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but your dad also has a private pilot's license, correct?
Correct. So
was he the inspiration to actually get this, or was this something you hadn't even considered until that opportunity showed up?
So ever since I can remember, I've been in the backseat of a plane. I was in the backseat of a Cessna 172 in a car seat.
Oh, of course. I know exactly what that is.
So, no. For as long as I can remember, I've been in the air. Like I said, even in a car seat, I can remember that flying with my dad. So I would definitely say the inspiration is there. And I knew I'd always wanted to get my private pilot's license. I just wasn't sure how I was going to pay for it. So when the Air Force came up with this, I was like, sign me up. Get me. And
if I knew about it, I'd sure it's cool to fly, but I was never as serious, I guess, as you were.
And like I said too, it was competitive. There wasn't a guarantee I was going to get to go. Oh yeah.
Is it based on how you're doing academically?
So I had to do a really extensive application, and then I had to take 2 or 3 different kinds of
aptitude tests.
Yeah, pretty much, basically. And then, so the year I was selected, I was technically selected to go 2020. Like I said, I got rolled back. So the year I applied, there were over 1,000 applicants, and they chose 55 of us to go.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you beat out the majority.
Yeah.
Top percentile.
Top what, 5%?
At least.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
But, so, that was pretty much my dad was definitely a big inspiration for that. It was just, the Air Force kind of came along, and they're like, hey, you apply for this, you could go for free. So
is that something
really
you
cool.
think about? How do you, after going and getting your private pilot's license, what are the steps to say, let's say you wanted to go fly commercially, what kind of steps would you take to do that?
So
without the military, because I know
no military. So actually, my cousin right now, he's working on his commercial, or he's going to be working on his commercial private pilot's license. So first, you got to get your private pilot's license. Just the basic license is what I have. Then you'd probably go to a flight school, which is what he's going to do. He's going to go to Kansas City.
It's just more extensive, I guess.
Yeah, so he'll work on his IFR, which means he can fly through clouds, and then he'll work on his commercial. So me, I can't get paid to fly. Cord knows about that. I
basically flew that plane.
I can't get paid to fly, but once you get your commercial license, you can get paid to fly. You can be an instructor or something like that. And then, I mean, to fly commercial, like say, I don't know, American Airlines or something, they just require like so many hours. You just, like a lot of the people I know, they just become like flight instructors.
So do you still like, let's say you're just going up for like a leisure flight, I guess. Do you log those hours so that if you decided to do something like that, it would be hours towards your commercial?
Yeah. So, for example, when Cord and I flew to Amarillo last year, I don't know, I think the whole time was like 3 hours. So yeah, I've got a logbook and I log 3 hours, and then like you always write a little note. So on that, I wrote like, Cord and I flew to Amarillo for lunch, flew back, kind of deal. But I mean, total time we were in the air for 3 hours. So on whatever day that was, I got 3 more hours under my belt.
How much that run you again? How much that end up running you boys?
I had to pay for lunch, so
Cord paid for lunch,
but Ethan covered the actual flight cost, which I'm sure was considerably
What was that?
more.
So luckily my parents helped me out with flying.
Of sugar.
Oh,
yeah,
sure.
A little bit of sugar.
Parents helped me out with flying. But the plane that Cord and I flew in is $150 an hour.
So it's a pretty expensive little endeavor.
I mean, from the time the engine's on to the time I shut it off, clocks are running. Yeah.
Well, I guess let's go ahead and talk about that story because we've kind of danced around it a time or two.
So you logged it. What about the time when apparently Cord was working the sticks?
Well, okay, and if you want to tell this story, you're more than welcome to. But
no, I'll let you tell it and correct you.
All right, fair enough. Well, I was a little bit too close there. So I found out that Ethan had this private pilot's license probably like a month before this actually took place. And I had known the guy for, several months before that. Didn't even really know he flew planes because he didn't really talk about it that much. I mean, he had all the little posters in his room.
It was just something he was like, I got my pilot's license. Cord just said something insensitive and I had to cut it out.
Anyway. So anyway, he asked me,
You're done, bro.
You're so done. All right, let's get back to going.
Okay, sorry.
I had probably known the guy for 2 months, 3 months at this point, So I'm just kind of rolling the dice here. I'm like, screw it, let's do it. So anyway, he doesn't really tell me what's gonna happen, how we're gonna do this. It's very much just kind of like I just show up and then, go from there. Well, anyway, I guess the morning of when we're gonna do this, it's like in January, and we get out to the airport. We're kind of like on the back side, so like we're not near like where the big planes are at. It's like a separate little kind of runway system back over there. And I don't know what I was expecting, but what we ended up getting was not what I expected. We walk out onto this runway. Keep in mind, like literally, we just kind of walked in there. And I just kind of like signed a paper. I was like, okay with flying with Ethan Myers, and they just like, all right, cool.
It's out back.
Yeah, literally.
It's like going to the go-kart track. Like,
no, yeah, literally. So it felt like I had like a private plane type deal. Anyway, so we walk out there, and it's this little. I mean, Ethan probably tell you the name exactly of it. The Chestnut B-152 or something like that.
Cessna 152. Hey, you were close.
Cessna 152 or whatever. So anyway, we walk out, and sitting there on the runway is this plane that's like Ethan just told me earlier, like 40 years old. I'm not saying I was expecting like a, like a commercial kind of like, jet out there. But in my head, I just kind of figured the operation was going to be a little bit more, high end, if you know what I mean. And he's got this like long checklist that he has to go through. And I'm sitting there, and I'm not going to lie to you. I really wasn't paying attention because I'm sitting there thinking, if something happens to Ethan, I'm okay with dying.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very much like he's telling me how the plane works. So in case something happens, I can kind of operate. No.
Coach, you're like,
I was like,
Ethan goes down. Screw it. I'm going down with the shit.
Listen, I have played enough video games. I've done the little simulations at like the Smithsonian Museum in Washington, D.C., the aerospace one. I know how to fly a plane if I need to. You know, if I really had to, I could probably figure it out. This thing's made in the 1980s. How hard can it be?
Quote Koenig, I know how to fly a plane if I need to.
I believe that. Anyway, you're gonna hear part of this here in a second. So anyway, we finally get in the plane, firing this thing up like it's, like a Duramax. I mean, just,
Coach, it's like cold start trying to turn this thing.
Oh, yeah, it was beautiful. So anyway, and we start kind of,
Is it
going.
Diesel? What's this thing run on?
No, it runs on avgas. It's blue Gatorade. It runs on blue Gatorade.
Yeah.
Really?
It's environmentally friendly. Not really. Anyway, so we start kind of going. He gets this thing, starts putting it like in drive. So, Coach, we're driving.
Put it in drive. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I don't know how that works, but that's in my head. That's what's going on. This plane is fighting for its life to get off the ground. I mean, I didn't think we were gonna make it. Like, we were going. This thing is screaming and whining. Ethan's got this thing like full throttle going, and I'm sitting there just like, trying not to die. Coach, it's just a normally, commercial jet. You just. We're just.
He's got those flaps down, and it's just.
I mean, we were climbing out slow. I'm not gonna lie. I looked over. I knew Cord was shitting himself.
Oh yeah,
I'm not gonna lie.
And the thing is too, what he also didn't tell me is we're taking off. The runway. We're going south. Amarillo's north of us, so we get off the ground. Coach, I could have probably jumped that high, and he just. I mean, like hairpin turn, Coach. I mean,
he's turning this thing on a dime.
Sideways, Coach. The wing is about hitting the ground. I'm sideways, and we're turning north, and I'm sitting there freaking out. Ethan's just, singing, Freebird in his head, just nonchalant.
About the Cessna 152. Very tiny, just a little two-seater. And what I used to say that's what I flew in flight school. What I used to say is when you're in that thing, you are sitting knee to knee, cheek to cheek. Mm-hmm. I mean, you are tight. So Cord's talking about taking this turn. It was a regulation turn. Definitely not hairpin. Trying to save my ass over here. Anyway, but I mean, your top part's not buckled in. I mean, you lean over,
Yeah.
So Cord's basically on top of me at this point. And I mean, I can just tell he's not into
this.
This
is not what I had signed up for. I was expecting a nice cruise, I was going to get my peanuts and Coke, about halfway through the flight. Whatever. We get back in the plane, heading back this way, and I'm thinking, we're safe because we're in the air. We're heading back to Lubbock at this point. And I've already made it one trip there. We're on the way back. We finally get back to Lubbock International or whatever. But he actually was really good, and it was really impressive to see him actually operate the thing.
So one more quick pilot thing before we move on. After I graduated flight school in July of 21, the family was finding out everything. My aunt, she texted me, and she's like, "Hey, heard you graduated flight school. Just want to say congratulations." And then she goes, "But I also want to say," she goes, "don't pimp out your pilot's license." She goes, "I know you're going to college. I know that's going to be a talking point. Don't pimp out your pilot's license." I'm like, well, I mean, okay,
You're
thanks.
a better man than me.
And then, one of the first times we go out in fall semester, Lane Hollingsworth over here goes up to this group of girls. He's looking back at me like, "Hey, see him?" And they're like, "Yeah,
licensed pilot,
checking me out." He's a private pilot. He's got his pilot's license.
My late grandfather would have loved you, by the way. I wish you could have met him because he worked on airplanes, and then he also did the other thing we were going to talk about. You spending the summers doing the wheat harvest because my grandpa also did the wheat harvest. So
okay,
I have no idea. He's kind of told me what that's like, but yeah, I guess you just know how to operate all the machinery. But what's that like?
Well, go ahead and kind of give some background on how you got into that. And what exactly you did.
Okay, so 2020 rolled around, summer. I was supposed to go to flight school. Then, as y'all know, everything just got shut down. We were all stuck at home. And a couple years earlier, my cousin, he'd gone on wheat harvest. And I was like, that's something I want to do. Like, I'm passionate about it. So I'd say, end of March, beginning of April 2020, when I knew I wasn't going to go to flight school, I started, applying to different harvesters and making phone calls. And total, I ended up talking to 17 different harvesters. And the first 16 wouldn't hire me because at the time I was only 16 years old. I was still in high school, so I could only work for the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have any experience. So there were kind of three things going against me. Anyway, so the 17th guy I talked to.
17th guy?
I talked to 17 different harvesters before I was hired. So the last guy I talked to gave me a break. And I was like, all right, I'll be up there like May 4th, I think it was. So I went up to Scott City, Kansas. If you don't know where that is, southwest Kansas, middle of nowhere.
Close to Cimarron, or?
It's northwest of Cimarron, about 80 miles maybe.
Okay,
but still, area. I mean, like
in that area. Though.
In the area, yeah. So it was close to my grandparents. But so yeah, I worked for him. I ran the tractor and grain cart. And it was a smaller crew. We only ran 2 combines and a couple trucks, and then the tractor and cart. We started in Texas. We went to Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, and then I had to leave to come back for senior year of high school. So I was only in Montana for about 4 days. So that was 2020, and I enjoyed that experience. But this last summer, 2022, I went with a different crew, which they ran 9 combines.
Because now you had like experience.
I had experience. Yeah. I was older. I mean, I still had to leave to come back to college. But this is a larger crew, so they don't really care about that stuff because like they're more well known.
Yeah.
So I went with them. I left at the end of May. It was the day before my birthday, last May, and I was with them until right after the beginning of August. And same thing as Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska. And then this time I got to be in Montana for about 10 days. And that was pretty. That was really cool. And this crew I didn't run.
A lot more scenic than Kansas and Nebraska.
Yeah, I mean we
and Oklahoma,
there was one
yeah.
We cut we were right underneath the mountains. Like we were
just
cutting
mountains and then field of wheat.
Mountains and field, and it was nuts. It was so cool. It was so pretty. I mean, you'd be like down in this valley, and there'd be this giant river running through.
Small ranch.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there was, when we were in Nebraska, we cut in this big river bottom. We were in like a 600-acre field, and the Republican River ran through it. And I mean, we had 45-foot headers, and from the edge of my header to the beginning of the water, I mean, probably not even 10 feet. I mean, like we were just right on the bank of this river, and it's 110 degrees outside. Like, I mean, the temptation to just get out and jump in fully clothed was there, but
you never did.
I never did. No, I wish I would have though.
Well, don't those things run themselves? Basically, couldn't you have gotten out if you were fast enough to run it back down?
So yeah, basically, I mean, I'm good for one thing: wait in the seat. I get to the end of the row, and I turn back around, and then lower the header, click the button. I go all the way down to the other end.
You just line it up.
So
it's GPS.
So you do about 3 things.
Which, how much were you making?
I made pretty good money. But I mean,
you have an AC in there too, don't you?
Oh yeah, my seat was air conditioned, and I had a fridge.
Oh my gosh!
I had Bluetooth, air conditioned seat. The buddy seat had a little fridge in it that ran off the air conditioner, and then there was a cabinet up here that ran off the air conditioner. So I mean, I basically had 2 fridges, air conditioned seat, and air conditioner, Bluetooth radio.
What if you got to take a boop?
Well, you better find a tire to squat behind.
Yeah, that's fair.
Or, like me, because I'm not doing that in the field. You just wait until you get back to the camper that night.
Just tough it out.
Tough it out.
It's freshman year. And I remember this because me and James kind of already got our feet planted in the dorm. And then you showed up. Coach, and you're getting there. It's that, you're a freshman and you're moving into the dorm. You're excited. And mommy and daddy left. And you show up. Coach, it's got to be at least 3-4 days that we've already been living there.
Yeah.
Before
So I remember, like, I mean, you, Gavin, and James, I mean, we're already established in the dorms. You know, you'd already made connections. You already knew people. And I remember I didn't move in until I think like 2 or 3 days before the semester started. Yeah. And y'all had been there like close to a week, like you said. Like, I mean, y'all were there. Y'all were in. So
feet planted.
I mean, you know, like you said, freshmen moving into the dorms for the first time. Definitely very interesting. So, I mean, I drove out here with all my stuff in the back of my car, and my parents came with me. And we get to the dorm. I mean, it's like mid-afternoon. And I go get my key. We get one of them little red shopping cart things.
Push all your stuff in.
My whole car fit in one of those shopping cart things.
So, you're kind of like a minimalist.
I really
almost,
am.
Yeah.
I mean, we made one trip from my car to the dorm. So we get up there. I'm looking for 205, going down the long hallway, you know. We get there. I open the door. I walk in. It's chaos. I mean, I'm not even going to lie. We walk in. Gunner was in there. Cord was in there. Gavin was in there.
Like our Gunner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lane was in there. And James was in there. There were 5 people in my dorm when I was moving in. It was chaos.
Then you bring your mom and dad.
My mom and dad were with me. And I remember Cord, I think you were watching Family Guy. Cord gets up, it was Trailer Park Boys. Cord was watching Trailer Park Boys. Cord gets up off the couch.
For those of you who do not know.
Cord gets up, moves the couch, because I can't even get in the door with the shopping cart.
Couch is destroyed.
Yeah.
We didn't break it, but it's broken.
I turn around and look up next to the TV, and there's one poster of women cuddling each other.
Yeah.
So that was one poster. And then on the other side of the TV was a very scantily clad woman holding an American flag.
She was not naked.
She was not naked. She was in a bikini, but she was holding an American flag standing in a wheat field. So this is what my parents see when they come in, is these two posters.
Well, the harvest,
wheat field. It worked out, you know.
Supporting.
Anyway, so I get all my stuff into my room. My mom is not saying much.
There's also a fish living in a Tito's bottle.
That was the other thing.
Oh.
Also by the TV, a broken Tito's bottle. There was a fish that was in the Tito's bottle.
And then confirm or deny that.
On 2 different windowsills was a box of Trojan condoms. James had one of those boxes in my room. So my parents see that. Well, I don't think anything of it, right? Whatever. So I get moved in. We leave because it's, like I said, it's kind of chaotic in the dorms. Whatever. We go eat, whatever. My parents are getting ready to leave. And my mom just breaks down, starts crying.
Was it about us, or was it just like
she just like I think it was both. But it was like the chaos of going into the dorm and the posters and the condoms. Like my mom, she just was crying. It was just the emotional, like, mom thing. And my dad, I remember my mom was like, they've got posters of half-naked women, you know, that's basically Playboy models up there. And my dad, just nonchalant, turns and looks at her and goes, at least they're patriotic.
Coach, it's beautiful. We get that one on the left.
At least we're patriotic.
We get that one on the left, and she's like, the American flag's like draped over her, and then there's like F-16s flying above it. No, that's awesome.
Yeah, but I mean, my mom just so tore up about it. My dad, all he could do was, at least they're patriotic. Like, it was so great.
He's a man's man. I like it. Hey, we took good care of each other though.
We
in
did.
The dorm. We had a good brotherhood. We still do going. Yeah, we had a good time. Ethan, you've been great. I would like to remind all of our viewers that the contents of the Canton Avenue podcast holds no legal weight, and that it cannot be used against us in any legal proceedings. So
I don't know if that's true, but I appreciate
everything on this is alleged. Once again, we appreciate you watching, and as always, we're going global. See you next time.
Thank you.